What's going on, everyone? Welcome, Rabid here, and you all have heard FPGAs are now live on IRONFISH, and Osprey did release their firmware. So I'm going to show you how to update your E300s. We're also going to test it out on a few settings here. I do have the Noctua fan mod on, so I'm definitely going to have to be paying attention to the temperature, because once we get into the higher overclock settings for testing, we're not going to want to overheat this. Now, I may have to switch back to the big fans if it starts getting too hot, but we'll see what happens when we get to that. But we're definitely going to have to pay attention to the temperature here, because we don't have as much airflow as with the bigger, louder fans. Regardless, what does this mean now that the E300s and other FPGAs can now mine IRONFISH? That is, in fact, Caspa still, I think, based on some early numbers, looks more profitable. It's pretty close, though. It's not by much. So, it doesn't really matter what you mine at this point, but Caspa is looking a little better. We'll find out for sure once we do get the official numbers here from testing. But we're not going to see too much hash rate probably hit IRONFISH if Caspa is more profitable. Now, why is that? Now, obviously, Caspa is more profitable, but Caspa is about to get nailed with ASIC sometime in August. So that's going to make FPGAs not profitable, because these things will not be able to compete with those big ASICs that are coming. So once that happens, that is probably when we will see these things move over to IRONFISH. And by then, we're going to have a variety of options, because we have Radiant that's supposed to be coming out soon, and there are another 3 or 4 coins as well that will be released. So there's going to be options for FPGAs and these E300. So I've always been dubbing this thing the easy E300. You don't need your board to program your FPGA and stuff. So let's jump into the workstation and dashboard, fire this thing up, and show you how to update your E300. All right, guys, so here we are in the Osprey E300 dashboard, and I just want to go through the settings I'm going to start with. This is the same settings that I was using on my 15 gigahash Caspa settings. So FPGA 0 and 1, which is 1 and 2, is at a voltage of 630, and it will bounce back and forth between, anywhere between 632 to 628 or so on every time you refresh. And FPGA 3, or number 2 in this case, because we start the numbers at 0, is sitting at 620. So that's my voltages. We're going to have to do the mining, overclock the core settings in the miner. Right now for Caspa, you can see I'm doing 650. So that's what I'm going to begin with and see if we're stable here and what kind of hash rates we get. I do have a sheet that I'm going to run through a couple things. I'll try the low and then maybe the top, but right now we're hanging around this middle grade, and it's telling me I need actually 675 volts. So obviously the FPGAs will be dying if at my settings, but I'm still going to try it out and see what it looks like. But we got to update this miner first, and it's a very simple process. We're just going to come in, update miner. Now I'm going to auto update firmware, so I'm going to click on this and hit the save button. At this point, if there's any updates available, it will then begin updating my miner all by itself. All right, so I just waited about 5 minutes and everything was updated. Hit the refresh, we're good to go. We can now see version 1.0.18, and if we go into our miner here, we can see that IRONFISH is now an option. Now, one thing I want to point out, if IRONFISH is not there, but you see diagnostics and everything else, the firmware changed, then you may just have to clear your cache. I did have to do that for my browser because IRONFISH wasn't appearing, but a different browser it was working. So just clear your cache and everything, and IRONFISH should pop up. Now, one thing I'm noticing also, everything did reset, so we're just gonna have to set everything from start. But my MPS, I believe it is. Let me just have a look here. So here you can see MPS temp. I was telling you, because I have the Noctua fans, we got to keep an eye on this MPS temperature here and keep it below 90. Now, MPS is no longer here. It changed to VRAM temp again. So I don't know if we can just use that. I'm trying to get confirmation, but MPS is the voltage controller, and we don't want that heating up because they did bypass the voltage to allow us to get 17 gigahash onto Caspa. So we did have to watch the temperature. So I'm waiting for some feedback on that still. So to set this up, the first thing I am going to do is set my voltages, because once you set up your miner, if you leave the screen to go to your voltages, everything resets. So I'm going to set my voltages. That way when I'm done with the miner, I can just hit start and not have to worry about it. So going into the little sheet here, I'm going to start with, let's just go with this one right here. We're going to start with a 600 core, so 635 millivolts on the voltages. So we're going to go with this middle ground here, and we're supposed to get about 161 gigahash at about 261 watts. So 635 is what I'm going to set my voltage here. So let's just go 635. And if you just put in one number and it's on all FPGAs, it should go to all of them. Now, sometimes it kind of likes to be a little bit of a pain, so we'll just make sure it does take a couple seconds to reboot its thing. Then I'll just hit the refresh here, and it looks like it didn't take yet, so we'll just try it again. 630. Change voltage. Okay. And then we'll try it here. Now, it doesn't look like it wants to do its thing. It's not. Oh, there we go. There we go. So it did change. Takes a couple seconds. You just got to keep refreshing it here. But we are now at 630. And like I said earlier, it'll go anywhere from 2 or 3 below and 2 or 3 above. So we are at 630 across the board. Now, this is actually what my 15 gigahash settings were. Maybe I'll try 620 on number 2. But I just want to see what it's looking like right now. So now we're going to move into our miner. And we got to adjust everything here. So I'm going to go into Caspa here. Select IRONFISH in this case. We're going to get rid of Wooly Pooly. And then select our next one. So IRONFISH, we're going to select USA West, copy, go into our miner, paste that in. And then we need our wallet address. So I just got to pop that up, and I see that I closed it. So that sucks. Let's come in my wallet addresses here, look for iron, which is wherever we are. So IRONFISH node box. I got a bunch of different addresses. Copy that in, close it out. Put in my IRONFISH address, and now I gotta name my worker. So I'm gonna go Rabid E300, and then we need our FPGA core clock. So we're gonna set our core clocks here. Now I can't remember what we wanted. So for 635, 600. So that was easy. So straight to 600 across the board. So I'm gonna go 600, 600. 600. So that is 600 across the board. Now they say here that your FPGA HBM clocks, that's your memory, should be double of what it is. We don't need memory, I don't think, but we'll play with that later. But I'm just going to put everything to the lowest at 1000 here and see what happens. Sometimes if you are not double, it won't even start. So we'll see what happens like this. So now I'm going to hit the start button and begin mining ourselves some IRONFISH. And it says right here, actually, look at this. Kyla coin coming soon, and IRONFISH dev fee, we do have a 10% fee on Team Red Miner. But here's the interesting one. Kyla coin coming soon. It sounds like this one might be pretty popular or pretty profitable for FPGA. So we'll see what happens once that does come out. So it says config done, hit OK, running Team Red Miner. We're just going to run into the logs right quick, and are we getting a connection and everything? So connected, dev pool connected. Can't forget about that dev pool. You need that dev pool in there. But it looks like we're all connected to Hero Miners. Dev pool's going in. So now it's just going to load the bit stream and everything. We're going to wait a few minutes and see how long this actually takes. All right, so we are seeing hash rate now from everything loaded. The time is 59:46, and if you look back or remember, it said 56:46. So it took about 3 minutes to start seeing hash rate. So now we're going to scroll down until where we are now, and we're hanging out at about 161.9 gigahash. Looks like we are at about 274 watts. If we go back to the sheet here at the 635 and 600, we're about 261. So we are using a bit more power. It could come down to the power supply. Maybe a 750 watt will be closer to that peak efficiency range, dropping that power. But we're at 274 watts right now on this. I'm going to go in and actually adjust this FPGA number 2 down to 620 where I usually am. So I'm going to go to 620 just like I had for Caspa and see if this one will actually remain online or not. So I'm just going to hit the refresh. We got to wait for it to do its thing. It does take a little while here. All right, so I do have this down to 620 on the voltage. We're going to go back into the miner now and see if this FPGA ends up crashing or not. So if it goes down to 0 and reboots, obviously it doesn't have enough voltage and it can't support the current hash rate that it's on. All right, so I did some tweaking. We are at about 268 watts, which is still 7 watts more than what we're supposed to be, but we are 161.9 gigahash. And I did adjust some stuff here. I had everything at 620, but FPGA 0, it was lasting quite some time, but then it did eventually go down after like 15-20 minutes or so. So I bumped that one up to 630, but I do have 1 and 2 now at voltage of 620, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. So I'm going to do a bunch of testing here, throw it into a spreadsheet, and we'll take a look at some of the numbers here of the E300 on IRONFISH. All right, so right now I currently have it cranked up to the highest on the sheet. I am definitely watching the temperatures due to those Noctua fans, only 3,000 RPM, and these ones are not on. The power supply is ramping up. As you know, it's a 1200 watt, but it's only 900 watts on 120 volt, and we are hanging out at about 801 watts. So I'm supposed to be at 900 millivolts here, but I actually got it down to 810. It is still stable. So I'm going to see when it starts crashing to see what type of hash rate and stuff we have. But I wanted to point out that everything is starting to really ramp up here on the high end, and it still seems to be holding decent temperatures at around 70 degrees Celsius when 90 is the max that you want to go. You don't want to go, actually you probably don't want to hit 90, stay below 90 is what they told me, but we're hanging out around 70. So these fans are so far doing decent. Now if it got really hot in here, we might start to overheat, but right now my ambient of around 25 or something C in this room, it's doing okay. But I wanted to point out that things are starting to ramp up. And here you can see, and I want to point out that they actually changed the other temperature to VRM. So this is actually for your voltage temperature. So this is the number that's still accurate. They got back to me from what I was mentioning earlier. So again, we don't want to go past 90. We don't really want to hit 90. I'm going with 85 max here. I keep hitting the refresh button and watching it, but we're hanging around 79 here. I have my voltages at 890 from the 900 in their spreadsheet. So I'm right here at this point right now, 900 millivolts, 830 on the clock. And we should get, it's saying about 747 watts here, but we should get about 223 gigahash. So right now we are at, what's it looking like here? 223 gigahash. So we're getting the proper hash rate here. We're still stable. I'm just going to do a little more tweaking here, making sure to pay attention here. Now, as I drop voltages, temperature should come down a little bit, as well as our power, but we'll see what happens as I get going. All right, so now we're going to go through all the numbers and see what things are looking like. So red is obviously the least efficient, highest hash rate, and green is the most efficient setting that I found. So coming into here for our highest hash rate, those people that have cheap power or free power, you don't care about power, obviously you can rock 223.9 gigahash. That is 313.585 megahash per watt at 714 watts at the wall. Now here's my most efficient setting. Now how I got to this was I went into here and I saw their lowest thing is 600 millivolts. 600 millivolts, I cannot go below that in the E300. That is the lowest setting that I can use for voltage. So from that point on, I just slowly started cranking up the clocks with the lowest voltage setting until I started to see stuff kind of come offline. And here we can see at 500 on the core, we're at 139.9 at 219 watts, 615.981, and you can kind of go through the list, but I kept cranking it up here to 520, 530, 540, 550, 560, and 570. But in 570, FPGA 0 actually went down. So I just lowered that 10, but FPGA 1 and 2 still remained just fine and steady at 570. So I'm going with these settings as the most efficient here. 560 on FPGA 0. And remember, Silicon Lottery definitely matters here. Maybe FPGA 1 will go down for you and you have to run this one at 560, or maybe all three of yours will run at 570 and possibly even make it to 580. Silicon Lottery, guys, we never know. For this FPGA, I have the E300 560 on FPGA 0. FPGA 1 and 2 are both at 570, 1000 on the memory, which is the lowest you can set it to. Core millivolts is 600 here. I kept the lowest. They're all the same millivolts here, as I mentioned earlier. 1000 on the mem millivolts and 239 watts. 152.9 gigahash works out to be 639.748 megahash per watt, making this my top efficient setting. So there we go. Now, if we head into what to mine and actually punch these numbers in between Caspa as well as IronFish, Caspa 15 gigahash, 497 watts, IronFish 152.9 gigahash, 239 watts. We're seeing Caspa is still a little more profitable here after power, and IronFish is slightly behind it. So most people are probably going to remain on Caspa until those ASICs hit, and then we'll see all the FPGAs probably flood into IronFish afterwards, or Kyla coin or Radiant or whatever coin is available and is fairly profitable for these machines when the time comes. But right now it's still looking like Caspa is the most profitable coin on the E300s, but IronFish is now an option, and that was the big thing before. We didn't really have options with these FPGAs. Really, there are lots, obviously, private bit streams and so on, but when it comes to public availability and Team Red Miner, remember 10% dev fee, but we do have options now, and more are still coming for the E300. As for the temperatures and this Noctua kit, which is still currently on, and I never did actually have to put on the big fans, but our temperatures are sitting just fine. 48 degrees here on the voltage controller, chip temps 50, 49, 48. Everything seems, the board temps 35, 34, 33. So we're nice and cool across the board here, utilizing full efficiency. Everything's looking pretty nice. Well, guys, so there we have it. The E300 is now available on IronFish, and as well Kyla coin, Radiant, and a couple other coins are still coming. So we are seeing a lot more options available with the E300. And again, this thing is very easy to use. Simply choose. You don't have to use any programmable boards with like some FK33s and so on. It's pretty much download the OS, pick the coin you want, put in the pool, put in your wallet address, hit start, good to go. You know, then your overclock setting and so on. Regardless, if you are looking for an E300 for yourself, I do have discount codes to 3 various models down in the description below. Also, join the Discord, join the conversation, see what the latest mining hardware always is. We always have information flowing through my Discord there at Rabid Mining, and that's about it, guys. So here is the E300 on IronFish in a nutshell. I'll see you on the next one. Rabid out.